The year is 1981, and the location is the rain-soaked city of Portland, Oregon. In the dim neon glow of crowded arcades, a new machine appears without warning or advertisement. It stands apart from the colorful cabinets of Pac-Man and Donkey Kong clad in a stark matte black finish. Teenagers line up in droves with quarters in hand, drawn by an irresistible magnetic pull toward the mysterious screen. This is not just a game, but a legend that has haunted the darkest corners of the internet and gaming history for decades. This is the story of Polybius, the arcade cabinet that supposedly drove players to madness before vanishing into thin air. Rumors began to circulate almost immediately after the machines were installed in local gaming hubs like the Malibu Grand Prix. Players reported strange physical reactions after only a few minutes of gameplay, including nausea and intense headaches. Unlike the simple joystick mechanics of the era, this game utilized abstract vector graphics and fast-paced psychedelic puzzles. The screen flashed with strobe lights and subliminal geometric patterns that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the heartbeat of the player. It was described as hypnotic and terrifyingly addictive, creating a sensation that the game was playing the user rather than the other way around. The most chilling aspect of the Polybius legend involves the mysterious figures who maintained the machines. Witnesses claimed that men dressed in black suits and dark sunglasses would enter the arcades after closing time. These individuals did not open the coin mechanisms to collect quarters like normal vending operators. Instead, they accessed a hidden panel on the back of the cabinet to retrieve data recordings. This led to the terrifying speculation that the game was not a commercial product, but a government psychology experiment designed to test psychoactive weaponry on the unsuspecting youth of the Pacific Northwest. Within a month of its sudden appearance, the game vanished just as quickly as it had arrived. Arcade owners were allegedly told to remove the machines by the same men in black who had monitored them. No paper trail existed, and no invoices or shipping manifests were ever found to prove the transaction occurred. The cabinets were reportedly loaded into unmarked trucks and taken away to an unknown facility. For years, the only evidence of its existence remained in the fragmented memories of those who claimed to have played it and the lingering side effects they suffered. The victims of Polybius reported symptoms that lasted long after the machines were removed. Some players suffered from chronic insomnia, while others experienced vivid night terrors involving geometric shapes and phantom faces. There were reports of amnesia, where players could not remember their names, or where they lived immediately after playing. In more severe cases, the game was blamed for inducing epileptic seizures in children who had no prior history of the condition. The psychological toll was heavy, leading some to believe the game had reprogrammed their minds. The name of the game itself offers a clue to its enigmatic nature and possible origins. Polybius was a Greek historian from the Hellenistic period, known for his assertion that historians should report only what they can verify with interviews. However, the name also translates roughly to mean many lives or many views. Conspiracy theorists argue this was a deliberate code chosen by the creators. It suggests a program designed to monitor the many lives of the population, or perhaps to instill many views into the subconscious minds of the players through advanced brainwashing techniques. When investigators looked for the company responsible for creating this digital nightmare, they found a name on the title screen. The word Sinnesloschen was displayed in pixelated text when the game booted up. This is a German compound word that roughly translates to sense deletion or sensory deprivation. No corporation by this name was registered in the United States or Germany at the time. The name appears to be a dark joke or a code name for a black budget project hidden within the bureaucracy of the military-industrial complex. The legend of Polybius remained a local whisper in Portland until the rise of the internet in the late 1990s. A dedicated community of retro gaming enthusiasts began cataloging arcade history, and the entry for Polybius appeared on the website coinup.org. The entry detailed the gameplay and the sinister rumors surrounding its existence, sparking a global treasure hunt. Forum users and digital archaeologists began scouring old trade magazines and interviewing former arcade employees in a desperate attempt to find concrete proof. In the year 2006, a man named Stephen Roach came forward claiming to be one of the original programmers of Polybius. He posted a detailed confession on a gaming forum, stating that he had been contracted by a South American company to develop the software. Roach claimed the graphics were intended to be revolutionary, but accidentally triggered epileptic reactions in players due to the refresh rate of the vector display. He stated that the company panicked and recalled the machines to avoid lawsuits and criminal negligence charges. While the confession from Stephen Roach provided a convenient answer, many researchers found holes in his story. His description of the gameplay did not match the memories of the alleged witnesses. Furthermore, background checks failed to find any record of a programmer named Stephen Roach working in the industry during that era. Skeptics argued that Roach was merely a hoaxer looking for attention within the gaming community. The lack of verifiable evidence sent the investigation back to square one, leaving the truth buried under layers of fabrication. To understand the truth behind the Polybius conspiracy, we must look at the real historical context of Portland in 1981. The city was indeed a testing ground for new arcade games due to its proximity to major distribution centers. It was common for companies like Atari and Nintendo to place prototype cabinets in local arcades to gauge player interest. These test units often lacked final artwork and sometimes had bugs or glitches that could cause crashes or visual errors. This reality provides a plausible foundation for the memory of a mysterious black cabinet. There were also documented incidents of video games causing health issues during this exact time period. The game Tempest, released by Atari in 1981, used vector graphics that were known to cause motion sickness and migraines. Another game called Battlezone was actually modified by the United States Army to train tank gunners for combat. This proves that the military had a tangible interest in using arcade technology for training and simulation purposes, adding weight to the theory of government involvement. The legend also draws heavily from two specific medical emergencies that occurred in Portland arcades. On the same day in 1981, a young boy named Brian Morrow fell ill while attempting to break a world record playing Asteroids for 28 hours straight. Shortly after, another teenager named Michael Lopez suffered a grand mal seizure while playing the game Tempest. These events were reported in the local newspaper, The Oregonian, and likely merged in the public consciousness to form the myth of a single dangerous game. The presence of the men in black also has a basis in historical fact regarding the Federal Bureau of Investigation. During the early 1980s, the Federal Bureau of Investigation was actively investigating gambling rings that used arcade cabinets for illegal betting. Agents were indeed raiding arcades in Portland and seizing machines that had been modified for gambling. To a young teenager observing from a distance, federal agents in suits seizing arcade cabinets would look exactly like the sinister figures described in the Polybius legend. We must also consider the darker history of government mind control experiments such as Project MK Ultra. The Central Intelligence Agency officially sanctioned programs to test the effects of drugs and sensory deprivation on human subjects. Although MK Ultra was officially halted, in the 70s conspiracy theorists argue that the research merely moved underground. The timeline of the video game revolution coincides perfectly with the search for new methods of psychological manipulation. A video game is the perfect delivery system for visual stimuli directly into the brain. The concept of the arcade as a laboratory is terrifyingly plausible when one considers the immersive nature of the medium. Players stare into a light source for hours in a state of high concentration and repetitive motor action. This induces a trance state where the critical faculties of the mind are lowered, making the subject suggestible. If an intelligence agency wanted to test subliminal messaging or trigger words, an arcade cabinet would be an ideal Trojan horse to enter the minds of the youth. The specific visual description of the game often includes references to complex mathematical puzzles. Witnesses describe vector shapes that rotated in impossible non-Euclidean geometries. This aligns with the aesthetics of early 80s tech demos, but takes a sinister turn in the lore. The idea is that the human brain cannot process these shapes without malfunctioning. This mirrors the plot of science fiction stories, where visual hazards serve as weapons against the optic nerve and the visual cortex. Despite the wealth of circumstantial evidence and historical parallels, no physical part of a Polybius cabinet has ever been found. There is no printed circuit board, no control panel, and no marquee header in any private collection. In a community where the rarest prototypes fetch tens of thousands of dollars, the absence of Polybius is deafening. Even the most obscure failed games usually leave behind a flyer or a schematic, but Polybius remains a ghost in the machine. The psychological phenomenon known as the Mandela effect plays a significant role in the persistence of this mystery. This effect occurs when a large group of people share a false memory of an event or detail. It is possible that the collective memory of the Portland gaming community conflated the seizures, the federal raids, and the prototype cabinets into a single narrative. The human mind seeks patterns and stories to explain unrelated traumatic events, creating a mythology where none existed. Pop culture has embraced the Polybius legend, cementing it further into the public consciousness. The game has appeared in background shots of The Simpsons and was a plot point in the television series Loki. These appearances validate the myth for new generations who may not know the origin of the story. By becoming a recognized symbol of 80s nostalgia and government paranoia, the line between fiction and reality becomes permanently blurred. The fear of technology is a recurring theme in human history, and Polybius is a modern manifestation of this anxiety. In the 1950s, parents worried that rock and roll would corrupt the youth. In the 80s, the target became video games and heavy metal music. Polybius serves as the ultimate cautionary tale, representing the fear that the machines we invite into our lives are secretly hurting us. It validates the parental concern that screen time is literally rotting the brain. There is a chilling theory that Polybius was not a game meant for the public, but a recruitment tool. The Starfighter film, released in 1984, depicts a teenager recruited by aliens after achieving a high score on an arcade game. It is possible that Polybius was designed to identify individuals with specific cognitive traits, such as high spatial awareness or fast reaction times. The data collected by the Men in Black would then be used to identify potential candidates for military pilot programs. Another angle of the investigation leads to the concept of electronic harassment and psychotronic weaponry. During the Cold War, both the United States and the Soviet Union researched the use of electromagnetic fields to affect human behavior. A cathode ray tube monitor emits electromagnetic radiation and could theoretically be modulated to affect the nervous system. While this sounds like science fiction, valid patents exist for technologies designed to manipulate the nervous system via electromagnetic fields. The skeptical community argues that the legend of Polybius was created by a Usenet user named CyberYogi in 1998. They claim the entire story was a fabricated hoax designed to fool gullible gamers. However, this explanation does not account for the specific details provided by locals in Portland who remember the era. Even if the name Polybius was coined later, the atmosphere of fear and the events involving seizures and raids were very real experiences for the people of that time. We must also acknowledge the role of Kurt Koller and the website coinup.org in popularizing the myth. The owner of the site admitted to receiving the image of the title screen from an anonymous source. This single image of the word Polybius in a futuristic font became the anchor for the entire legend. Without this visual evidence, the story might have faded into obscurity. It serves as a reminder of how easily digital information can be manipulated to create a false reality. The legacy of Polybius extends beyond the realm of video games and into the study of folklore in the digital age. It is one of the first true internet urban legends or creepypastas to bridge the gap into the real world. It demonstrates how a story can evolve through collaborative storytelling on forums and message boards. Each user adds a detail or a supposed memory, building a complex narrative that feels authentic because of its complexity and crowd-sourced origins. In recent years, amateur game developers have created playable recreations of what they believe Polybius was. These download files often come with epilepsy warnings, an attempt to replicate the psychedelic vector graphics described in the lore. While these are merely fan creations, they allow us to experience a fraction of the dread that the original players supposedly felt. They serve as a digital monument to a game that technically never existed. The mystery of Polybius ultimately asks us to question the nature of memory and truth. Did a specific black cabinet named Polybius sit in a Portland arcade in 1981? The answer is likely no. But did government agents raid arcades? Yes. Did arcade games cause seizures? Yes. Did the military use games for training? Yes. The legend is a puzzle piece mosaic made of undeniable facts, arranged to form a terrifying picture. The story serves as a dark reflection of the golden age of arcades. Beneath the joy of high scores and pixelated adventures, there was a tangible undercurrent of anxiety. The arcade was a dimly lit cavern of loud noises, and flashing lights a place where parents had no control. Polybius gives a name and a face to that anxiety, transforming a cultural pastime into a sinister conspiracy. As we look back at the case of the Polybius conspiracy, we are left with a lingering sense of unease. Even if the game itself was a fabrication, the elements that created it are very real. The government interest in mind control the physical effects of technology, and the vulnerability of the human mind are not myths. The story of Polybius is a warning from the past that remains relevant in our modern world of constant digital surveillance. In the end, Polybius remains the holy grail of urban legends, a phantom that can never be caught. It resides in the space between history and folklore, occupying a permanent slot in the collective imagination. Whether it was a government experiment, a hoax, or a mass delusion, the result is the same. It reminds us that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are not the ones on the screen, but the ones watching us play.